I, 32M, have been dating my girlfriend Lucy, 28F, for about a year now. When we first met, I didn't realize she had an identical twin sister, Amy. I come from a pretty wealthy family and run a successful tech company I founded in my 20s. Because of my job, I'm able to afford a very comfortable upper-class lifestyle, nice cars, a big house, fancy vacations, expensive hobbies like boating, etc. Lucy doesn't come from rich background and has lived paycheck to paycheck for most of her adult life. She works as a teacher but with not a good salary. When we started dating, I made sure to pay for nice dinners, trips, shows, etc. so she could enjoy some of the finer things without having to stress about money. Over time, Lucy started hinting that her sister Amy was struggling financially as a single mom. Her ex wasn't paying child support consistently and Amy had fallen behind on bills. I offered to help a few times by paying off Amy's debts but Lucy declined, saying Amy was too proud to take donations. The relationship progressed and Lucy and I moved in together. After that, the hints about Amy's money problems got more frequent. Randomly over dinner Lucy would mention Amy had her electricity shut off that day. Or that Amy's son needed school supplies / clothes / etc. but she couldn't afford them. Lucy would always get emotional and worried about her sister's issues and I tried to comfort her. Eventually I just started sending Amy money directly for her bills, usually a few $1,000s here and there. I can easily afford it and I like helping loved ones. I figured this would ease Lucy's mind about her sister struggling. However, Amy started texting and calling me frequently with financial emergencies like needing fast cash to fix her car or take her kid to the ER or things like that. It was multiple times a week at this point. She pays me back occasionally but most of the time she doesn't. I genuinely don't care about being paid back for helping family so I didn't think much of it. The other day Lucy casually mentioned she and Amy were planning a big family trip to Hawaii for their 30th birthday next year. I was surprised since I knew Amy was strapped for cash, so I asked if she had gotten some money recently. Lucy laughed and said Amy hasn't struggled financially in a while thanks to me. I realized that all those urgent money requests from Amy were made up just to get cash out of me. I was shocked and pissed off. I told Lucy that Amy scamming me for money wasn't cool. Lucy said that I was wealthy so what's the big deal, but I said that was not the point. The principle of the lie is what made me upset. I also warned Lucy that if Amy keeps taking advantage of me for cash, I will not be contributing as much money towards special things for Lucy like trips, jewelry, etc. This sparked a huge fight where Lucy accused me of actually being cheap and broke compared to how I presented myself, not at all true, and that she deserves luxury perks for dating someone rich. I disagreed firmly and said if she wants luxury, she has to work for it herself. We fought bitterly for a while and I came to my parents' house to calm my mind. Lucy texted on my phone saying I was the reason of all this as I caused this by letting Amy take advantage in the first place, so I'm the reason because of which I was in this situation no matter what. So Reddit, Ida? Update number 1. After the big fight with Lucy over her twin sister Amy basically scamming me for money, I left Lucy's place to cool off at my parents' house. I was just so pissed about the dishonesty and Lucy's entitled behavior, I needed some distance. My dad could tell I was in a bad mood the minute I walked in the door. He asked what was up and after trying to brush it off, I finally told him about the situation with Lucy and Amy. My dad's a great listener and pretty wise when it comes to relationship stuff, so I laid the whole story out about the money transfers. Dad asked some thoughtful questions, letting me vent and get the frustration out. When I finished explaining he sighed and said this is a complicated situation. He asked if Lucy knows for sure Amy was lying about the emergency money needs. I said I honestly wasn't sure if Lucy was in on the scam or getting manipulated too. I complained to my dad that either way, Lucy feels entitled to expensive gifts and trips and perks just for dating a wealthy guy. And now she expects me to fund her sister indefinitely. Dad nodded and said Lucy's financial expectations seem unreasonable given she doesn't want to build wealth herself. He asked if Lucy displays a level of materialism or greed that worries me long term. I sighed and had to admit she does focus a lot on money, both earning it and spending it. Dad gently pointed out that he and my mom supported their own interests and financial needs for decades without help, so that's the type of life partner he imagines me wanting too. Someone ambitious and independent. He asked how much I know about Amy's situation overall. Her job, relationship history, spending habits, current goals, etc. I realized I actually knew very little, mostly just what Lucy told me over time. Dad said I need to get to know Amy myself before deciding if she's manipulating me or actually needing temporary help. I said the last thing I want is more contact with Amy. Dad laughed but said if I'm handing out money, I have the right to understand the background. He offered to have lunch with Amy. I was curious what Amy would say about the whole money issue. So, I reached out to set up lunch. Amy instantly agreed, saying she'd love to meet my family. I was thinking she probably just wants to get more cash. At lunchtime, I went with my dad but avoided small talk with Amy, still angry about the Hawaii trip reveal. Dad warmly introduced himself and asked Amy about her job, life as a single mom, relationship with Lucy, and take on borrowing money from me that past year. Amy put on a big show. She cried telling dramatic stories about getting evicted while pregnant, selling valuables to afford diapers, constant calls from debt collectors, and fear over providing basics for her son. She praised me as being a saint for helping them. My dad kindly and subtly kept getting more details about Amy's story. He'd ask about the type of home and area she was allegedly evicted from versus what Lucy's told me about where Amy lives. Or why she wasn't on state assistance programs as a single mom if money was so impossibly tight. Amy got nervous, quickly reversing her own facts and mixing up details. I directly asked why she and Lucy planned a 5-star Hawaii trip if she was broke and struggling so severely that whole time. Finally, Amy broke down and admitted most of the sob stories were exaggerated or fabricated. She defended this by tearfully saying she just didn't know how else to help Lucy have some financial freedom too for things like trips and fun stuff. Dad calmly discussed that honesty and trust are mandatory in close relationships, financial or otherwise. Taking advantage breaks both even if intentions are good. I added that I don't mind helping loved ones in actual need, but lies don't go with me, especially repeated manipulation. Amy apologized for deceiving me and tried to rationalize it. She swore the trip was Lucy's idea and she just went along with it at first because it sounded fun, but now realizes how bad it seems given my recent help money-wise. I said just because someone has wealth, doesn't mean their assistance or generosity should be abused or taken for granted. Dad suggested the three of us go together to a financial advisor to look objectively at Amy's budget, job, expenses and see what's actually reasonable for her to afford day-to-day or save for trips, rather than create drama trying to fund things. Amy looked anxious but agreed that's probably wise. She said she wants to become more responsible and self-sufficient. We made an appointment with an advisor my family uses who specializes in long-term financial planning. After Amy left, Dad said he believed she genuinely felt cornered money-wise as a single parent and made fear-based choices. Combined with Lucy's pressure for trips and fun, the temptation to manipulate me just built up gradually. However, now that everything is exposed, if Amy attends budgeting classes and sticks to the financial advice plan, she should be able to live within realistic means without continuing to deceive anyone. I still feel wary toward her but also feel bad for her trying to keep up impossible lies. Dad says it's up to me if I ultimately want to forgive Lucy. I'm still frustrated with Lucy and avoiding her calls for now. I know I need to have a serious talk about why she defended Amy scamming me instead of showing concern about the betrayal of trust. And also discuss why she fixates on status gifts and trips so much from guys instead of building her own security. I just have no idea how to have that conversation usefully without Lucy calling me controlling and cheap. I'll give the financial advisor sessions with Amy a few weeks to play out before deciding if I should break up with Lucy. This money deception stuff recently is making me reconsider a lot about how much she truly values me versus valuing my lifestyle and net worth. I wish I had realized that sooner. It sucks to feel like you have to buy a partner's priority and affection. So, I still have some soul searching to do on if this relationship is actually healthy or rooted too much in greed. I'm going to take this slowly before making any permanent decisions. For now, I'm avoiding seeing Lucy in person at all, but eventually we'll have to talk through everything with level heads. I'm interested in anyone's thoughts or advice on how to handle this going forward too, so let me know. Update number 2. It's been about 3 weeks since I stopped seeing my girlfriend Lucy over her deceitful sister Amy manipulating me for money. I'm still keeping my distance from Lucy for now while I figure out if this relationship can realistically work long term. The financial advising sessions with Amy were going well so far. She seemed to be getting her actual budget and expenses under control. I was still confused whether to fully forgive Lucy though. Her mindset around wealth and tendency to defend Amy taking advantage of people bugs me a lot. I can't shake feeling like Lucy is only with me for the lifestyle versus genuine connection. Trying to clear my head, I drove downtown today to grab lunch at this expensive cafe I really like. They have amazing paninis and tomato basil soup in a nice open atmosphere downtown. It reminds me of a cool bistro in Italy I visited few years ago. Real fresh, quality ingredients. As I walked in, I instantly spotted Lucy sitting at table by the window. My heart sank for a minute before I realized she was chatting it up with some other guy in a business suit. This unknown dude looked a bit older than me, maybe late 30s. He had on an expensive watch, some fancy leather dress shoes. Definitely seemed well off. I stood there in shock watching Lucy laugh flirtatiously and touch this guy's arm a few times. Then to my disgust, he pulled out a black credit card to pay the bill and Lucy smiled really big. The hostess asked if I was waiting for takeout or wanted to sit down. Still processing Lucy's betrayal, I blurted out without thinking that I changed my mind and needed to leave. I pushed my way out the door to my car, hands shaking with anger and disbelief. How could Lucy pull this crap? I got out of there furious and found myself subconsciously driving straight to my parents' house. Dad was home and asked what happened. I told my dad about catching Lucy on a date with some business guy. I described the fancy watch, shoe brands. I told that the dude took out his elite credit card to show off his wealth. And how Lucy was extremely impressed by all that. Dad tried calming me down saying there could be a reasonable explanation. He asked if I actually saw them kiss or hold hands romantically. Maybe it was a friendly lunch or even a business connection type thing. I shook my head adamantly. I tell Lucy she's beautiful on a regular basis and touch her affectionately all the time. She was giving this random dude flirty eyes and accidental hand grazing like they were on an intimate date. Plus, he paid with a black credit card in a bragging kind of way. Apparently wasting my money wasn't good enough, she already has new sponsor lined up. Why else would she be at a fancy restaurant dressed up nice making eyes at this guy? Dad again pointed out I don't actually know this man or his relationship to Lucy. I hadn't even spoken to her in weeks. For all we know, this could have been a friendly mentor in her industry or something simple. Perhaps I was misreading cues through a lens of anger. By this point I was seeing red flags and couldn't even process logical perspectives. I felt certain Lucy was throwing herself at the first rich guy she found to fund her glam lifestyle again. Even after all my help and patience and love. I said angrily that I refused to be taken for a fool. I would directly ask Lucy about this sketchy lunch meeting and demand the real story. If she confirms dating this dude so fast, we are over for good. No negotiation. You can't treat people like disposable bank accounts and get away with it. All her talk about loving me so much was total garbage. Dating me was nothing but access to vacations, fancy restaurants, and material things. Now that I cut her off financially, she immediately found a replacement wallet without looking backwards. And this is while she still has keys to my freaking house from just moving in together. Unbelievable. Dad kept trying to be the voice of reason, asking me to calm down and get more facts before accusing anyone of ill intent or destroying relationships. He gently said we all handle feelings of betrayal differently, but wisdom is rarely found in heated reactions. I felt like my gut knew exactly why Lucy was whining and dining Mr. Rich Guy even if she tried downplaying it later with lame excuses. I couldn't wait to call her out. Finally, Dad told me if I was dead set on confronting Lucy tonight, he would at least come along as emotional support and a neutral mediator. Make sure things didn't spiral out irrationally. He knows how much I cared for Lucy under all this anger. I agreed reluctantly to having Dad there, mostly so I could vent to someone instantly if Lucy tried denying her gold-digging ways. I felt so crushed catching her essentially proving my worst fears correct. She wanted my money, not my heart, this whole time. We drove over to Lucy's place in tense silence. I banged angrily on the door the second we walked up. Dad touched my shoulder signaling for me to chill the out. When Lucy answered, surprised to see me and my dad standing there grim-faced, I barreled past her angrily demanding answers about her lunch date. Who was that guy? How does she know him? Why were they so flirty? Did she ask him to pay the whole tab? Lucy looked confused, asking what on earth I was talking about. I raged that I saw her today at the cafe downtown with some business suit dude acting romantic over the table. Explain that. Dad stepped in saying there was clearly miscommunication and misunderstanding happening. Let's sit and discuss this calmly instead of shouting accusations. Lucy started tearing up saying she has no clue what cafe meetup I was referring to today. She hadn't been downtown in weeks actually, since before our big fight. I inspected her face and didn't see any trace of deception, but I still felt certain about what I witnessed. I described the guy's looks, clothes in detail. Lucy shook her head helplessly. Dad suggested maybe I did see Lucy's twin Amy out to lunch today instead. After all, identical twins can easily be mixed up. He asked Lucy gently if Amy perhaps started dating someone new she was excited about. Lucy said that yes, Amy had gone on a first date downtown today with some businessman guy she met online. Lucy helped her pick out an outfit this morning. My stomach dropped realizing Dad was likely right about the mistaken identity. Amy would definitely flirt openly with some rich potential hookup online. I felt awful realizing I had yelled at innocent Lucy. I started tearily apologizing for assuming the worst of her and making a dramatic scene. Lucy cut me off icily though. She said she cannot move past this extreme breach of trust and explosiveness from me. I clearly don't know her well at all if I could imagine her openly scheming for money with random men. She felt entirely disrespected. I begged desperately for another chance, saying this whole thing was an awful misunderstanding because the twins look identical. I should have confronted Amy first about the guy before accusing Lucy. I was just overwhelmed by our recent fights about financial views and saw red flags making assumptions. But Lucy folded her arms angrily saying this misunderstanding was my subconscious speaking volumes. I apparently assume any woman around wealth must be using people. She said my willingness to believe she was some girl throwing herself on men to climb social ladders proved I had zero faith in her character or respect for her independence. She refused to date someone who makes such nasty, flawed assumptions at the first hint of confusion. I looked desperately at my dad for help mediating. Dad seriously asked Lucy if there was any path forward she felt comfortable with to repair broken trust. Lucy maintained that she cannot imagine ever feeling safe with me again if ugly accusations erupt constantly without proof. And she said frankly it's clear I need some therapy to handle dislike around people with different financial backgrounds than me mixing in relationships. I have some deep anger to work through. I kept pleading with Lucy to just give me a chance to redeem myself and work on my underlying issues around money and relationships. I was almost hysterical, promising to do therapy, couples counseling, whatever it took to undo the damage I had caused by wrongly accusing her. My dad stepped in and gently asked Lucy if she could find it in her heart to allow me an opportunity to rebuild trust once emotions were not running so heatedly. He tried to explain to Lucy that I had indeed behaved impulsively and spoken due to suspicion due to our recent fight. However, my intense reaction also shows how deeply I care for her. I kept looking at Lucy as she listened to my dad. Her expression softened slightly as she admitted she still has love for me below her anger and hurt. She said my behavior was extremely difficult and being drunk on love is no excuse for such instability regarding accusations. She will need to take time to process her emotions and decide if she has the energy to walk the long road of rebuilding fractured relationship foundations. I started pleading again that I would carry 100% of blame and do 100% of work needed, so long as Lucy was open to allowing me to demonstrate genuine change after processing things fully. Dad reminded me it was not fair to demand an answer this instant, as Lucy likely needs reflection time given the intensity of conflict tonight. Pressuring her forgiveness timeline would only communicate that my priority is overlooking personal guilt quickly, not thinking about Lucy's healing. I apologized again and said Lucy is welcome to take any time she needs. Dad exchanged contact info with Lucy in case she wanted an input while determining next steps. We then left to give her recovery space. In the car, Dad said he was proud of me for allowing Lucy breathing room rather than continuing to make demands in order to self-soothe. He said if I stick to the personal work needed to become less reactive, there is always hope for reconciliation down the road, either with Lucy or a wiser version of myself in new relationships. I wiped tears, feeling partially sorry and partially hopeful thanks to my dad's mentoring. His support kept me stable. I must nurture unconditional understanding if I want Lucy as my soulmate. That starts with development of my own growth first and foremost. Update number 3. It's been about 5 weeks now since the tragic fight where I accused my girlfriend Lucy of using men for money after mixing up seeing her twin sister Amy on a date. Lucy was angry at my assumptions. She broke up with me because she felt I didn't trust her. I had suggested she was only interested in dating me for money. This upset Lucy and made her think I have no faith in her or her character. I begged her to give me another chance, but she said she needs some time apart to decide if our relationship is worth saving after I showed I don't really trust her. I have been keeping my distance from Lucy like she asked, even though it's hard. I started going to therapy to deal with some of my issues, getting angry too easily, having trust issues, and unhealthy ways of coping. I know my bad relationships in the past made me unfairly assume the worst of Lucy. I blew up at her because of my own biases. Now I need to change those thought patterns so I don't sabotage future good relationships like I did with Lucy. My dad keeps checking in on me to see how I'm doing after the breakup. He tells me not to give up hope since Lucy didn't officially end our relationship forever. She just said she needs some time alone to think without me pressuring her, so she can decide if our relationship can recover from what I accused her of. She hasn't permanently broken up with me yet. I haven't heard anything from Lucy since our fight that night. I've wanted to ask her to meet up and discuss things so many times, but I've stopped myself because I don't want to cross any lines while she's thinking everything over. However, just waiting around not knowing where we stand has been really painful and difficult to deal with. I don't know if Lucy is going to forgive me or if she even should after the way I acted. I wouldn't fault her for ending the relationship for good. I'm hoping she can see that my ugly behavior stems from being hurt in previous relationships. It's not a reflection of how I actually see her. Those issues are what I'm now working on in therapy. But I understand if she feels it's too much to move past and wants to walk away after the accusations I made. Today, after an emotionally tiring therapy session, I felt exhausted. I stopped by a nearly empty coffee shop on my way home. As I was lost in thought, I didn't notice someone else walk in. Suddenly, I heard a familiar voice behind me say, "Hey you." I was surprised and turned around fast, nearly spilling my hot drink. It was Lucy. She looked a little unsure but calm. I worried she wanted to meet so she could tell me in person that she was ending our relationship for good. That would crush me, but I told myself I wouldn't try to argue with whatever decision she made. We stood there frozen for a second. No matter what Lucy decided about our relationship, things could never go back to how easy they used to be between us. Too much hurt had damaged what we once had. The trust we used to share so naturally was now broken. I had only myself to blame for starting that erosion of faith in our relationship. Finally, Lucy pointed to a small table in the corner by the window and asked, "Can we talk for a bit?" I nodded, feeling suddenly very thirsty. We sat down across from each other at the table. She didn't speak at first, so I said she looked thoughtful and I hoped she had been doing all right since our fight. Lucy gave a little smile and said she has been reflecting a lot lately about relationships and personal growth. She decided to take a break from dating and guys for a while. She thought it would help her focus on what really matters instead of surface-level drama. I was afraid this meant she saw me as too dramatic and didn't want to date me anymore. Sensing how anxious I felt, she reached out and touched my hand gently. "That doesn't mean we can't make things right between us though. if you've been working on yourself too. I rushed to promise her that things were different now. I rambled on about how therapy is helping me explore why I had that outburst, and how to healthily discuss feelings instead of lashing out. I told her my therapist even wants to meet with Lucy periodically, if she's open to it, to help facilitate more empathetic understanding between us. I stumbled over my words trying to assure her things had changed. I assured Lucy that what happened was due to my own unhealthy issues that I unfairly projected onto her. It had nothing to do with who Lucy really is. I should have communicated my worries calmly instead of accusing her based on past situations that had no real relation to our relationship. Lucy looked into her coffee mug for a while, thinking, before responding softly. She said she knows my behavior came from my own inner pain, not any actual wrongdoing on her part. Over time and with insight, she was able to understand that. She also apologized for her harsh words that night, admitting we both handled the conflict poorly. We both got defensive right away instead of first trying to understand each other, and made cutting remarks. I was scared that anything I said might ruin this fragile opportunity Lucy was extending. When she looked up at me again, now they only had warmth and tired hope in them. She admitted that her breaking things off that night was an instinct to protect herself because she felt overwhelmed emotionally. But with time and space, she realized what her deeper feelings actually were. I started quietly crying with relief and gratitude, realizing Lucy was willing to reconnect with me. I sincerely told her I will spend every day showing my loyalty and regaining her trust. Being apart this past month devastated me down to my core. I can't picture going on permanently without Lucy in my life, without getting to see her smile that lights me up inside. She then gave me her playful grin for the first time since we split. She said she missed my sappy romantic poetry about her. She gently wiped the tears from my cheeks and added that life felt empty without having my arms to come home to. Her days lacked sparkle and laughter without me there the past few weeks. She said she didn't fully feel like herself without my company. In response, I kissed her hand and asked if she wanted to come over for dinner that night so we could talk more about how to move forward and strengthen our relationship again. She agreed right away. We sat talking more easily again for a little while longer before leaving the cafe hand in hand. I felt extremely thankful for this second chance to show Lucy I could be trusted. When we got to Lucy's car parked on the street, she paused and turned to me before driving off. She whispered that when two people are meant to be together, nothing can truly break that bond forever.